So, you want to know how to factor by grouping. Well, let's go through the steps very slowly, and I think that you'll get it. Factor by grouping is going to happen when you see 4 terms in the polynomial. Now, if you're asked to factor this, initially what you want to do is ask yourself, is there a common factor that I can pull out to the front of all of the terms that I see? Meaning, do I have a common factor among 15, 9, 20, and 12? Is there a number that will go into every one of those evenly? It looks like perhaps that 3 might, but here all of a sudden it breaks down. 3 will not go into 20. So I go through and I find that there is no number that I can pull out to the front and factor out of that. I look at the 4 terms and I see, are there any letters that I can pull out to the front? No, no letters. So I proceed. What I want to do in factor by grouping as the first step is to circle the first 2 and the last 2 terms. I want to make sure that I see a common factor among these 2 terms and, separately, among these 2 terms. As long as I see a common factor among those 2 and among these 2, I can proceed. I look carefully and I see that I have a number 3 that is in common and an X that is in common. I look to the numbers first and then to the letters, doing them in separate steps. So I see I have a 3 and an X, I pull them out. If I pull out a number out of a binomial by dividing it out, then I'm still going to have a binomial when I'm finished. So when I factor out a 3x out of 15x squared, what number should I have remaining? I should have a 5x. Now, if it's easier for you to go forwards, then go forwards after you've put something in the spot. Meaning, 3x times 5x, does it give me 15x squared? Yes, it does. Next, I look at the 9x. If I divide out a 3x out of the 9x, I am left with a 3. Visually, I check it. 3x times 3, does it give me 9x? Yes, it does. I proceed on. What I do is I copy the sign that is in the center, and then I move on to the second group. Later on, you'll see that sometimes the signs need to be adjusted on the second one, but for now, this one is going to be nice and simple. I look at these two terms, and I see that I have a number in common, and I want to pull out the greatest number they have in common, which is the number 4. I pull it out. I'm left with a binomial. If I pull out a 4 out of 20x, what remains is a 5x. If I pull out a 4 out of 12, what remains is a 3. Now, I want to visually check. 4 times 5x, does it give me 20? Yes. 4 times 3, does it give me 12? Yes. Now, at this point, the next thing that you should check is to see that your parentheses match exactly. Numbers, letters, and signs. If they do, then we're set to continue. These 2 have to match. Now, I want you to notice that this green thing that I've underlined is actually a term, and this green thing is a term. And if you look at the green boundaries, you see that we do have a binomial. Again, this is a term plus a term, which is a binomial, 2 terms. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the common red factor. This is a factor, and this is a factor. There's a common red one here and here. I'm going to pull out the common red factor out to the front of the huge green binomial. Here I go. When I pull that out, I'll have a binomial remaining. So here comes my 5x plus 3 out to the front. In a similar manner as when I brought the 3x out in front of this one. That's the same thing. I'm bringing out the binomial, the common factor, excuse me. When I bring this out, if you'll look to see, the only thing that remains on the green is the 3x plus 4. So I'm going to write that as the remaining parts, 3x plus 4. Because this is a binomial, I need to put parentheses around this one. Now, this should look like you could FOIL it, and indeed you could. If we FOILed this, it would go back to this. As a last step, many times I will just write it in a little more consolidated or compact way so that it looks like things that I've seen before. And there it is. 5x plus 3, 3x plus 4. When I FOIL that, it will go back to those 4 terms.